I'm Meg Dickinson, and this is my show. And it's a show of all the people I've met, all the events I've experienced, all the stories that I've heard from people, and of course, meeting animals that you don't meet at the Columbus Zoo. And it's also about really finding out what people feel and think, what they wear. This is what I bring back to the kids I work with. I used to be a high school English and biology teacher, and I was an excellent teacher, but I found that I needed to do something that really touched my soul and my heart. And that has been about being in touch with kids about the rest of the world and bringing the world to them in a variety of ways, which I certainly do. I find that my benefit to kids is that I do reach out to them and let them know what's happening in the rest of the world. I do give them an opportunity to learn about a particular culture or cultures. I do experience with them that they learn about animals that they might not otherwise have an opportunity to. And certainly, I have lots of stories to share with them. Dance, music, variety of sounds. In other words, this is what I bring to kids, and this is what I find has been successful and very joyful to me. I'm one of the few adults perhaps in this world who can't wait to get to school the next morning, so it's been really fun. I bring, as I say, I'm former high school English teacher, brings lots of books with a few contracts that one must look at the books, not just see that they're pretty covers, because I don't want that beauty to be lost in our culture, although I fear it's dwindling away. So I am the one who is anti-dwindle, and I bring probably a single van load full of books pertinent to the topic I'm doing. I have lots of topics. I am always challenged. If it's the solar system I need to study, I can hardly wait. So whatever the case may be, this is what, to me, my purpose and my passion is, to travel the world and to bring it back to kids and place it gently in their hands and let them know that this is something that they too can experience. I am up to 1 to 9 van loads that I cart in, and usually with some help of students, to set up a wonderful environment of a place, of a zone, of some kind of an environment, a biome that we're studying, and that's what I share with kids. You know, it isn't just my joy that I bring, but it's also a passion I have, as I mentioned, about bringing the world to kids, and a passion I have that there need to be more people who are, as I am, bringing that world, and especially to the community, because we are, after all, people with our own culture and with our own strings of culture, depending on our ethnic variety. And I want to celebrate the differences of people. And this is the best way that I have found that I can do that, is by exposing kids to those differences. They don't have to accept them, but they have to understand that they can at least acknowledge that other people have differences than they do and accept it. And that's really the beauty. Because this is what I normally wear in my own life. Now, this is from Indonesia. This is from Afghanistan. This is a ring from the Native Americans. This is a ring that belonged to a great-grandmother of a friend of mine. And this is from Thailand. And this is from Tennessee. So I always wear things that have stories. But the reality is, my most favorite thing to do is to dress in literal ethnic wear, because I want kids to know that it's okay to be different, and it's okay to wear things that are absolutely glorious and beautiful, because it makes you feel very special. And it isn't that I dress for people, it's that I dress for myself, because I'm the one that likes to look down at what I have on and say, yes! Because it's usually colorful and very beautiful and very different, because different to me is the ideal. I began traveling. I was a kid with a divorced parent living with my grandparents, and the extent of our travel was to go to Lakeside once a year in the summer, which was a very exciting event. And I like sharing that with kids to let them know that just because they're not traveling now, the important thing is to dream and imagine that they're traveling, and to make sure that it becomes part of their adult life. You either travel as an adult, this is what my father-in-law says, and I believe it. You either travel or you don't. There's nothing in between. So I'm always encouraging kids to travel, because this is what they can experience. In terms of stories, well, every single one of these pictures has a story. I have to honestly say that. And one of my favorite experiences Well, I have a lot of favorite experiences. But anyway, one of my real favorites is when we went to British Columbia in Canada, and I saw a brochure that explained that I could be a woman who runs with the wolves. Pun on a book. You guys may not know that book, okay. But at any rate, that I could run with wolves for up to 2 hours and take photographs of them. And I was so excited. And of course, immediately when I called and talked to the man in charge, and I said, "Hi, it's Meg Dixon. I'm so excited. I really wanted to see wolves all my life, and I can't wait to get there." And he said, "Well, Meg, you're going to have to be able to calm down a little bit because the wolves don't want you to be so excited." And I said, "Well, I'll try really hard." The next time I called to confirm a date, and he said, "Meg, are you walking around a lot?" And I said, "Well, yes, I am walking rather fast, and yeah, I am walking, and I can stop." He said, "Good, because you'll want to be very calm and not do a lot of strange movements." He said, you certainly don't want to make any eye contact with the wolves." And I said, "You mean I can't look at them?" Well, anyway, I came to the spot. We went out into a meadow, the wolves and I and my husband, and we ran and we enjoyed, and the young male kept coming up to me and going like this with my hand. And finally I realized what he was doing was he wanted me to scratch his ears, which of course I'm used to with big dogs. So I was scratching his ears. In another moment, I bent down to tie my hiking boot. And as I did, I looked up, and I was in a direct line right here with the female alpha wolf, who was right in my line of vision. I didn't panic, I didn't scream, I didn't anything. In fact, I just hummed a few bars from South Pacific, which I knew would work. And at that very moment, what happened was she reached over to me and she licked my face, which was a great honor. I love telling kids I've never washed it since. What I often don't mention is, though, that luckily right afterwards, she rolled in the fresh bear poop, not before she licked me. This was in India, and he was a gruff, nasty man, and he kept kind of spitting at me, and he kept giving me glares and bad-looking faces, oyos dios. And I found that when I was talking to some of the young boys around him, who were probably, junior high age, and we were laughing and we were dancing together, then suddenly the whole image of him changed, and he became this delightful man who came up and danced with us. And I thought, isn't this bizarre? And then he said to me, in fairly perfect English, he said, "You are good with the children. You are good with the children." And suddenly he became my friend. So it's things like that that I love about traveling. It's seeing people at their best and sometimes at their worst, and how the worst can become the best. India is my favorite place, and it's because it's a juxtaposition of every imaginable thing in the world. It's beautiful, it's ugly, it's horrific smells, it's beautiful smells, it's spices, it's people wearing the most beautiful garments in the world. And of course, I'm so aware that the beauty that I see all over the world, I wish we could transfer and transport a lot of it to the United States, because people are wearing clothes that are just out of this world in joy and beauty and color. So, ta-da! But at any rate, India is my favorite, and these are from the last. In fact, it wasn't too long ago that I got back. And I have India photos from when I went there the first time to the north part of India photos, and that was probably 7 years ago, for instance. And then I have India photos from the camel fair, where I love to kiss camels on the lips, although they often spit at me and I try to forgive them. And I would say Africa, I've been several times, so these span probably somewhere between 6 to 7 years. But who would have thought that I'd have a show? And then I was lucky enough at Ohio Northern to have a show. Then I'm lucky enough here at Ohio State to have a show that I can share with people what I've experienced. And that's really what it's all about for me. A lot of the kids have asked some really wonderful questions when they're here so far. About people, about animals. Many of the kids are really enthused with the monkeys that I got from my last trip in India. But often they're asking things like, well, why would somebody do this? And why would they want to do this? And I talk about the reality. These are the long-necked women from Burma who often live in northern Thailand and Laos. And the reality is this becomes a sign of great beauty to wear this around your neck. It's an adornment, much as we would wear jewelry. It's also a sign of wealth because the woman has paid a great amount of money, which would amount to about $500. And I say that because recently there have been a lot of articles about the horror of men from a variety of surrounding areas of the long-necked women have actually stolen their breasts to turn into wealth for themselves, and the women are left with nothing, and the fact that it would cost them $500 to in any way replace, plus the fact that they can be injured by the removal and the atrophy of their neck muscles, which can create, I hate to say death, but often can. This is a sign of beauty. It also is a sign of tradition. And when we think about, kids will say, well, why would they want to do that for tradition? Why would anyone want to do that? Again, it's the difference of what do we do in our culture for the same kinds of tradition. The horror is, to us in our Western mind, these women with the necks that are elongated, and kids say, oh, it looks just like a giraffe's neck. Well, yes, it does, except what's happened is the clavicle has been crushed and the shoulders are crushed so that the actual shoulder, instead of beginning right here on the body, actually slants down and begins here. So it's very painful. They start at 7 years old, but the reality is they're very proud and they're very happy with what they've created in their beauty. And I always mention things like liposuction that we would do in our culture that would be the same kind of thing. You know, they're inserting a tube that's a little like a sweeper tube to suck the fat out of your leg, and you're paying thousands of dollars for this, and the fact is it's acceptable in our culture. So the same thing, and I go on and on because it's always about bringing it back to what do we do in our culture. And what do we learn about ourselves by finding out all these wonderful things about the people that we're viewing? And when I watched him dance, and afterwards I treated him to lunch in New Zealand, and I asked him about his beautiful tattoos. Tattooing is very different in New Zealand because it's usually very deep into the skin. It's actually almost scalpel-like. And then they put in minerals to create the color. And I said, it's so beautiful. And he said, well, Meg, I must tell you that my wife doesn't really want me to get any tattoos. And I said, well, wait a minute, what are you wearing then? He said, it's actually my wife's Maybelline eyebrow pencil that I'm wearing. So anytime that I dress in my New Zealand skirt for the various activities, I make sure that I use my own Maybelline eyebrow pencil for my chin. Women only decorate their chins, so that's quite divine of color. And this is, to me, a really wonderful moment, because so often women are covered totally as part of the modesty and as part of the tradition and the culture. And usually I don't ever take a picture of a woman from a Muslim country because I know that it would be embarrassing, that it's not something to do. And here I was at Petra, and I was standing over here, and I kept watching the woman and realizing that she was watching me. And just one of those spontaneous events, I held up my camera and smiled, you know, the way I would normally do with anyone wanting a picture from them. And she said, like this, closed her eyes, opened her eyes again, and here she is with her blue jeans and with her blue purse. And to me, my experience in the Muslim world is something I really enjoy sharing with kids, because we, of course, hear the horrors of the Muslim world and Al-Qaeda, you know, everything that we know about. And the reality is my experience has so often been the joy of knowing people in the Muslim world who are the most hospitable people I've ever known. They will always offer you food, water, bed, whatever the case may be. But I think of some of these joyful pictures, and of course, the fact that I love to dress some of my students. This was a student teacher from Bowling Green in her beautiful Egyptian attire, and another girl right here in her Moroccan attire. So it's always exciting to me to let kids experience the culture by wearing the clothes, by touching the food, by understanding the food, by understanding the artifacts, and understanding stories that I share with them about the culture. And I look at these pictures of these two families and the young boys with their wonderful expression, who were just lovely kids. And this is the Muslim world too. It isn't just everything we hear about.